Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Closing Bell on the Stock Movers Podcast. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Scarlet Fu.
Let's get to some of the individual gainers and check it out because some of them kind of hitting significant milestones to some extent. Let's go to Coinbase because its shares, they are up almost 24% here in today's session. We know what the news is.
They're going to round that up. It's 23.97, Carol.
I said 24%. Okay. All right. So a big gain. This company's going to join the S&P 500. That'll happen on May 19th, kind of making it legitimate. I don't know. We had a big conversation about crypto kind of going into its legitimate phase because it just seems that way. S&P 500. Hey, folks, if you're in an index fund, you now will start to own a piece of crypto if you didn't before. Anyway, Coinbase, best day since the presidential election. So that was definitely some outperformance there. Another one, First Solar. I've been looking at the alt energy space in a big way. First Solar, guys, up 22% in the past 5 days. This stock is up about 50%, rounding it up for you, Romaine.
Thank you.
Up about 50% in the past 5 days. So it has been on a tear. This one having its biggest gain in 2 years. A couple things going on. JPMorgan coming out saying the U.S. budget reconciliation bill better than the more bullish end of investor expectations for solar, for wind and geothermal firms. Also, you had Wolf Research coming out, upgrading the stock to outperform and announcing a $221 a share price target. Stock closing at $191 and change. So really some outperformance. And one more for you, Super Micro. It's up 16% in today's session. Raymond James initiating coverage on the firm with an outperform, saying it has emerged as a market leader in AI-optimized infrastructure. And the analyst also saying Super Micro has positioned itself in a sweet spot between branded IT suppliers such as Dell and contract manufacturers like Quanta. Price target set at 41. They say the share is undervalued. Stock closing at $38.89, so almost $39 a share.
Okay, you had the easy job with the gainers. Certainly, there were some prominent decliners today. I do want to start with United Health Group. Shares dragging the Dow down today. Shares falling 17.8%, closing at the lowest going back to February of 2021. This brings the decline from its record down 50%. The company did fall after it replaced its CEO, Andrew Whitty, with a former CEO, Stephen Hemsley. It also suspended earnings guidance and cited unexpected medical costs and challenges with its Medicare strategy. The company's stock down about 40% so far this year. It also revised its forecast and it raised questions about its ability to anticipate and manage patients' expenses, despite its size and reach. Also, Hertz on my radar today. Shares falling about 17%. This after the company posted a larger than expected loss in the first quarter. It was driven by a slowdown in customer bookings and a 13% revenue decline. Shares are up close to 60% so far this year. Just a reminder, Pershing Square Capital Management of Bill Ackman has amassed a nearly 20% stake in Hertz in a part that's a bet that tariffs will drive up the value of Hertz's fleet. Once again, shares falling today by about 17%. And this is an interesting one. IGT US, International Game Technology, they make slot machines and other gambling tech. It's about a $3.3 billion market cap company out of Providence. Shares fell about 10% today. As much earlier in this session, about 15%. This after the company said its full year revenue will be at the lower end of previously issued guidance.
All right, let's go quickly to the bond market here. Not a lot happened, but what didn't happen was also quite interesting. We hit that 4% level on the 2-year and nothing, and it stayed right there, despite the fact that we got a weaker than expected CPI, which in theory could be good news, right? If inflation's less of a problem, maybe the Fed can actually cut. One would have thought that maybe yields would be lower. I also want to highlight the dollar, the Bloomberg Dollar Index, guys, jumping a full 1 percentage point. That's the biggest jump since April 11th. So right around the walk back from Liberation Day.
I just want to point out, too, when we talk about just the shift in sentiment, you were going through the decliners, Tim, and it's interesting to see most of the decliners were a lot of those defensive names that had been bid up, a lot of consumer staples, obviously healthcare, as well as some of those auto parts names. But then also the shift in sentiment to the upside, that's having a material effect as well for the IPO market. We're getting a headline right now that the fintech company Chime, which just a few weeks said it was going to postpone its IPO, now saying It's going forward. It made the full filing now with the to file on the NASDAQ. Remember, if I remember correctly, get my dates right, just maybe 3 weeks ago, it had actually said that it was not actually going to follow through with that, at least not anytime soon. But now, apparently, back in play here. So interesting shift in sentiment.
Yeah, Bloomberg pointing out kind of late last year that it had about a $25 billion valuation back in 2021. That was the peak of kind of the tech boom, and then that faded. So it'll be interesting to see as we get more details in terms of the financials on that one.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.